It's Fan Fiction Friday. Let's get into your Mariners trade ideas. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Friday, January 24th, 2025. This is Titan Gonzalez and Colby Patnode for the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's Fan Fiction Friday. If you don't know what that means, we react to trade ideas from Mariners fans and grade them on a scale of 20 to 80 based on things like creativity, uniqueness, and viability. Before we get into today's batch, quick shout out to our title sponsor, FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, check out our Patreon. All you have to do to check that out is click the link in the description of this episode. Kicking us off here on Fan Fiction Friday is Jeff, who has a deal with the Kansas City Royals. Mariners offer up Mitch Haniger, Logan Evans, Dewell Joseph, and Jeter Martinez to KC for Maikel Garcia, Chris Stratton, and Hunter Renfroe.
I think it's got a lot of holes in it. For example, Mitch Haniger sucks, to be nice. And he sucks in a very expensive way. Now, to be fair, Hunter Renfroe also sucks, or at least he did last year. But he sucks at about half the price of Haniger. Now, Stratton is set to make $4.5 million. So when you add those two salaries together, the Mariners are still saving about $3 million, give or take, in this trade. So, it's valuable. That money is valuable to the Mariners. But if you're the Royals, why would you take on an extra $3 million, lose a potentially, important bullpen arm, and give up your third baseman for a, group of prospects that is lackluster? I mean, it just, Logan Evans is a good, solid prospect, but Joseph and Jeter Martinez, unfortunately, right now, they virtually have no value, very little value. And you're talking about giving up Maikel Garcia, who's not great, but he is a big league player. Like, there's no denying that. He is at least a solid big leaguer, who is a plus defender at third, runs around, makes a lot of contact. Good chance he hits 270. Now, there's going to be a lot of power with that. No. Is there on base worry there? Yeah, he's got to walk a little bit more, but he's 26 years old, I think, 25, 26. You get him for 4 more years. He's just more valuable than that. So even if we broke this down into 2 trades where it's like Haniger for
Renfroe and Stratton. Yeah.
Stratton. Thank you. I wanted to say Slowick.
You got Bobby Slowick on the mind there, bud?
I do, apparently. Renfroe and Stratton, so would the Royals make that swap? No, they wouldn't. So would they trade Garcia for Evans and Martinez and Dewell Joseph? Probably not. I would say no, but maybe, but probably not. And so I think when you combine them, essentially what you're doing is you're saving $3 million. You're getting a potentially useful reliever, and you're getting probably your everyday third baseman, at least for the first half of the year. So from the Mariners side of things, it's a no-brainer. From the Royals side of things, why would they make this trade? I just don't think the Royals would be interested in this. Yeah,
because Hunter Renfroe is pretty much Mitch Haniger at this point for $10 million less.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stratton's coming off a bad year. He got hurt, had a forearm issue, which is always scary with pitchers. But in 2023, he was a 1-win pitcher, and he's only making $4.5 million. He exercised his player option. So I would think that the Royals would just, for $4.5 million, they can take that shot that, hey, maybe he turns around.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would just ball up the Mitch Haniger aspect of this and throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Joseph, Martinez, and Evans for Garcia is pretty close to as far as what I would be willing to give up for Garcia. Mm-hmm. Because look, I've talked about this before with Garcia. We have 1,100-ish plate appearances now worth of data that says that he's a well below major league average hitter. Like you said, he's a great defender, really good athlete, but he hasn't been able to hit really anything worth a lick at the major league level so far. Now he's shown some interesting stuff, and maybe a breakout is coming soon. I'm fine with taking the shot. It's just there's a certain cap on what I'd be willing to pay for that. I'd be willing to throw in a bigger headliner than Logan Evans. I think we can agree that Logan Evans is the headliner of the three prospects heading to Kansas City here. But I think the furthest I'd be willing to go is maybe Harry Ford.
Yeah, maybe. Even
then, I have some. Yeah,
it's not terrible if you're giving up Ford as the headliner for Garcia, but also it's not like a no-brainer. Garcia does have very interesting batted ball data, though, and there's some belief that if you teach him to elevate a little bit, hit more fly balls instead of ground balls, that he has the raw power to be 15, 20 home run type of guy.
Sure,
but nobody's been able to do that yet, so it's still a big risk. So the deal as it's presented to us right now is probably like a 30, 35. There are parts of the deal that make a little bit of sense, but overall, I just don't think the Royals have any incentive whatsoever to pull the trigger on this.
Agreed. Yeah, so I'll go 35 on this one. Stan has a deal with the Red Sox, Vaughn Grissom for Trent Thornton and Ty Pete.
Grissom's interesting. There are some Jerry traits here. He doesn't strike out a ton, walks a good amount, performs very well in the minors and the high minors. A former top 100 prospect. So there are some very Jerry attributes here. But he also hasn't succeeded at the major league level, granted in relatively small sample sizes, but I think he has just enough, days in the big leagues where you only get him for 5 years, not 6. It's not a huge deal, but it is worth noting. Grissom probably is available because it sounds like Campbell is probably going to be the second baseman at some point. And as of right now, Devers is a third baseman, so he can't play there. He's not a shortstop, so that won't work either. And if the Red Sox do end up acquiring Bregman, then it sounds like the plan would be, at least for now, would be Bregman at second. But even if it's Bregman at
third and Devers at first, yeah,
right. It doesn't mean that Grissom's not moving up the depth charts at second base. So
no,
he'll probably be available. But I do think that I think the Red Sox would probably just hold him, keep him in AAA, and see if they could get like an actual major leaguer at the deadline for him, maybe a bullpen arm or something like that.
Mm.
But yeah, I think the valuation is about right. You get a bullpen arm that helps you now, kind of, and you get a really fun lottery ticket. If you're Seattle, though, and you're looking at this, you go like, do we want to give up Ty Pete? Like when we have Ryan Bliss already, like is Ryan Bliss less likely to hit at the major leagues next year than Vaughn Grissom? I don't know. I don't think so. So
yeah. I'm not a huge Vaughn Grissom guy. Gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, I think he can. I think he'll hit enough. I don't know how soon that's going to be, and I don't know if I'm willing to give up Ty Pete when I already have like Ryan Bliss like in house, and Bliss is, he's okay. Like he's. I'd probably rather just give the shot to Ryan Bliss being the starting second baseman for a few weeks than Vaughn Grissom. But I think this is the type of deal you would have to offer Boston to get them to trade Grissom right now. I'm just not sure if the Mariners would do it.
Yeah. I'll go. I mean, it's fine. I'll go 50.
Yeah. It's a 45.
I'm just not a huge fan of Grissom personally, but yeah, it's a fine. Like if the Mariners did this, then okay. So
would you prefer David Hamilton?
Not a huge David Hamilton guy either. So it's another one of those deals where I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Ty hates everybody.
That's right. Including you.
I mean, we already knew that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure the feeling is mutual.
I said nice things about you on another podcast.
You did, huh? I still have to go listen to that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Shout out to Jake. Shout out to Raise the Trident. Colby had an hour and a half long interview with Jake. It's the most important interview in human history, folks. should go watch it.
It's right up there with Frost Nixon, I'll tell you that much.
Before we get into more of your trades, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by Select Quote. The World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. Select Quote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. Select Quote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Other life insurance brokers offer impersonal, one-size-fits-all policies that may cost you more and cover you less, while Select Quote's licensed insurance agents work for you to tailor a life insurance policy for your individual needs in as little as 15 minutes. Select Quote. They shop, you save. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/lockedon. Go to selectquote.com/LOCKEDON today to get started. That's selectquote.com/lockedon. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. And before we get back into your trades, Colby wants you so badly to notice he has switched the glove in his background.
First of all, that only happened because you said to do it.
That's right. I mean, you brought it up, though. You were like, oh, I was supposed to switch out the gloves, but I didn't. And I was like, well, why don't you? You were like, it's in the other room. I was like, well, go get it then. Go do it.
There's a continuity problem. But anyway.
Yeah, he said that he was worried about the continuity of this episode.
I'm just saying, it seems like a retcon.
Sure.
Totally using that.
People are very concerned about the canon of Locked On Mariners.
Exactly. But it's a Ichiro Mizuno model glove.
There you go.
So had it for a while. You can't even barely see the logo or anything, but yes, it is an Ichiro glove.
Well, now we're all aware.
Yeah.
All right, back to the trades. Adam has a deal with the White Sox, Luis Robert Jr., and hey, Prolando Baroa back to the Mariners for Las Montes, Carlos Vargas.
I don't think the Baroa Vargas thing is really even a part of the discussion. I mean, it's like,
it's just kind of funny.
Yeah. I mean, sure, but cool. Yeah. The Mariners get the better reliever, but neither one of those guys do I feel confident in saying are major league like relievers right now. So who cares? Essentially it's Robert for Laz, and I would do that. I like Laz, but again, he's 19 years old. He's really a bat-only prospect at this point. So, yeah, I would take the shot. I would take the shot on Robert coming here with a new attitude and getting out of that terrible situation and him performing much closer to 2023 than 2024. But probably not going to be a 6-7 win player. But, I don't need him to be. I need him to rotate and right. Play a lot of right field, play some DH, and just be, 3.5, 4 win player. And if I can get that for Las Montes, I will take that. So, I would do that. With the White Sox, tough to say. So
it is. But if you're the White Sox, I mean, you're going to be really bad this year. And you're running the risk that, we've talked about this before. Luis Robert didn't look too interested in playing baseball in Chicago at times last year. Running the risk that happens again. His value continues to tank. And then you're going to be able to get even less for the guy if you try to trade him later on down the road. So it's a weird conundrum the White Sox find themselves in right now. I would do this. I would take the shot. Especially if all it's going to cost me is Laz. I really like Laz, and obviously he's a really good prospect. But the ceiling, I mean, the risk reward here, it's pretty clear with Robert. So yeah, I'd be more than willing to take that shot. But again, like you mentioned, are the White Sox? I don't know. I'll just give it a 50.
Yeah, it's tough to grade Robert trades because, again, we just aren't quite sure what the White Sox are looking for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would do this, and I think the White Sox would at least be interested in it as a starting point. So 50.
Mariners to the Moon has a quite the deal here.
This is the one I
Three-team
thought
deal.
you would like the most.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
It's out there.
All right, so bear with us, folks, especially if you're only listening to the show and not watching. 3-team deal: Padres, Twins, and Mariners. Padres are getting Christian Vasquez, Trevor Larnach, Logan Evans, Luke Keschel, and Harry Ford. I think I said that right. Maybe it's Keschel. So $10.65 million in savings for the Padres. Twins get Dylan Cease, Trent Thornton, Dom Canzone. They save $2.75 million. And the Mariners spend $13.4 million and get Willie Castro, Luis Ariz, and $5 million in cash from San Diego. So first and foremost, I'm just going to trust you on the math here. I'm not going to live look up all this. I'm just going to trust that all of this adds up. So the Mariners are not only going to get one everyday player, they're going to get two here with Castro and Ariz in the same deal. And it's going to run them.
Rentals.
Yep. And it's going to run them Evans, Ford, Thornton, and Canzone.
Yeah.
I have a hard time wrapping my head around that, getting it done.
Yeah. What's interesting is that it sounds like the Padres are actually interested in Vasquez, despite the fact that he's a bad catcher making $10 million. And they're supposed to be cutting payroll. So it's a little weird, right? But maybe it's Vasquez and like Brooks Lee for Dylan Cease, and then that makes more sense. But yeah, and the Twins reportedly have interest in Dylan Cease, but we know that they're going to have to clear money before they acquire Dylan Cease. So yeah, like those parts make sense. It's just like if you're like, so the Twins are giving up Larnach, Vasquez, and Keschel, whatever.
Yeah.
For Cease. Yeah, they do that in a heartbeat. The Padres, though, are getting Larnach, Evans, Ford, and Keschel, and they're giving up Cease and Ariz. That seems like we're putting too much value on the Padres shedding salary. And from the Mariners, they're getting 1 year of Willie Castro, 1 year of Luis Ariz. Ariz probably the DH, primary DH. Castro probably the primary third baseman. And they're giving up Ford, Evans, Thornton, and Canzone. Like, yeah, the Mariners probably do that, but why? Like, I mean, why would the other team allow that? You know what I mean? Like, the Mariners aren't giving up enough here to get.
The fact that they're getting two everyday players and they're getting some cash back, and all it's going to cost them is really Harry Ford and Logan Evans. I know Canzone and Thornton are also in here, but I mean, Thornton probably carries a little bit of value. Canzone, though,
he's
really
a 4A
not at
player
all
right now.
Yeah. So
these are two highly replaceable players.
Yeah, we're talking about a mid-leverage reliever and a 4A outfielder. So
right.
Is Ford and Evans good enough to get you two everyday players and $5 million in cash? I would say no. Even with the Padres issues that they have right now. So
you solved a lot of problems here because the Padres do shed salary. The Twins do add Dylan Cease without adding salary, which is, I'm sure their primary goal. But the Twins are also going to up Larnach. I mean, Larnach's a pretty good hitter. So that's interesting. I don't know enough about Keschel, however you pronounce it.
Yeah.
To have a good grasp on that. But it does seem like this is a deal where the Mariners are getting too much and not giving up enough. It's a very complicated deal because there's a lot of pieces involved in it. But I think for me, I look at this and I go like, the Mariners aren't giving up enough to, and I know it's just 1 year piece of Castro and Ariz, but I mean, still, these are everyday players that you're getting. So yeah, some of this works, some of it doesn't really, but it is creative. It is bold. So I think I'd probably give it a 50, and that's with the realism I would attach to it being like probably like a 30, 35. So yeah, I'll still go 50 though. It's certainly bold. You took a shot.
I'll go 40. I'll go 45.
Yeah.
I'll go 45 on it. All right. We got a couple more trades to go over in just a moment, but first a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. It is Fan Fiction Friday. We got a couple more trades of yours to go over. Ammon has another deal with the Kansas City Royals. This time it's for their other infielder who might be available because they traded for Jonathan India. Maybe, who knows? That's Maikel Massey. Ammon has the Mariners getting Maikel Massey for Harry Ford and Gabe Spire. Also says that they would throw in Troy Taylor if Kansas City really wants him.
Massey's certainly a flawed player. He doesn't get on base a ton, but he's a second baseman who hits, has 25 home run power. Like he's a pretty good hitter. Lots of slug at second base. Defense is going to be fine. And your Harry Ford is, again, a good prospect. We talked about this on our on Wednesday's show, I believe, right? Ford's a good prospect, but he's no longer an elite prospect. He's no longer a big headliner in a trade, particularly not for Massey, who I think you get for 4 years, has produced at the big league level for the last couple. So Ford and Spire probably doesn't even start the conversation. So throwing in Troy Taylor really doesn't make any difference. You need a better headliner. So if Massey is indeed available, because India could just play second, then I think the Mariners should be interested in that. He's a lefty. They could use a lefty bat. They could use some lefty thump. And again, the defense will be fine. So I think they should be interested in Massey. I think your headliner is off. And so
what's the best prospect you would give up for Maikel Massey? Because like you mentioned, brings some pop that you don't see from a lot of second basemen. But he also doesn't get on base at all. And he only really has one good year of offensive production.
Yeah, this is what makes it really tough because, like, from a Mariners perspective, it's possible that the only guy they feel good about giving up for Massey is a Harry Ford type. But if you're the Royals, there's really no reason to do that. So you're kind of in this weird where it's not like a super great fit. But, again, he doesn't strike out. So that's something in his favor. He's a pretty good second baseman, at least range-wise, not the best arm in the world, and he's got power, specifically pull power, which plays at T-Mobile Park. So, I think the best prospect I'd be willing to give up, I don't know, maybe an Arroyo, maybe. But the one thing that we have to keep in mind, though, is it's not just like ranks because, like, for example, I have Montez ahead of Senja, but I would rather trade Montez than Senja, if that makes sense. So,
sure.
I think,
and like we always say, beauty is an eye of the beholder. Right, it doesn't really, ranks don't really matter. It's like mocks when it comes to drafts and all that stuff. Right. Every team values players differently from one another. But I can't personally see Harry Ford and Gabe Spire getting it done for Massey because, again, 4 years of club control. The Royals can sell this as, or spin this as, he's finally breaking out. 2024 is just the first year of him starting to really figure it out at the plate. There's more to come, etc. So, they're probably asking for someone in the Arroyo, Montes, etc. range of prospects as the headliner and more on top of that.
If they want prospects at all. If I were the Royals,
right,
and I were going to trade Massey and the Mariners came calling,
major league talent,
I would probably ask for like Matt Brash.
Would you do that? I think you have to consider. I think if teams are asking for Matt Brash for major league talent this winter, I think you have to at least consider it because, again, he's coming off the injury. You don't know what he's going to look like. I've said this before on the show, but I'll reiterate it. And he still has that violent delivery. Like, as far as I'm aware, that's not going to change. So there's always going to be the risk that he re-injures the elbow at some point down the line.
Right. Now, like, this is where it's like, hey, can I give you Santos and Arroyo instead of Brash?
Sure.
I'm probably willing to do that. Like, I'm probably trying to push that, but if push comes to shove, and it's Brash for Massey, and I think they have the same club control too, actually.
Yeah.
So, like, if that's what it takes, I don't know if I do it, but I think you have to strongly consider it because it's just such a thin market, and you feel like maybe you can recreate Brash. And like you said, there's really no guarantee whatsoever that Brash is any good this year, let alone pitches this year. So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I think it's a risk worth taking. But this trade right here, I just don't think it's enough. So I'll give it a 40.
Yeah, I'll go 40 as well. All right, last trade of the day comes from Drew. Mariners send their Comp A pick, Ty Pete and Michael Morales to the Dodgers for Alex Freeland and Michael Grove.
Seems a bit much to me. Grove is a guy who very well could be DFA'd in the next couple days anyways. We've heard that they're trying to, they need to make room for Yates, which I don't think is official yet, but
no.
When it is, they'll need to make room.
It's been reported, like they've agreed to terms and all that, but the team hasn't announced it yet.
Right. And so like Brazier is kind of the common guy right now, but we've also heard they might consider trading James Outman. They might trade Grove, or they might even trade like a Dustin May. Like there are other guys. It's not a foregone conclusion that it's going to be Brazier. So they're willing to DFA Grove. They're probably not super high on him. They're probably not going to value him all that highly.
Freeland's not on their 40-man, right?
No. But he is in AAA. So basically it's, do you want to trade the 35th pick, Ty Pete and Michael Morales for Alex Freeland? Freeland's a good prospect. To me, he's kind of a bunch of 50s across the board, which is fine. Like, again, good prospect. But we're talking about Ty Pete, who has tremendous ceiling. We're talking about a comp round A pick and the $2.5 million in bonus pool money that goes with it. We're talking about that. And Michael Morales, who's, a fine prospect. To me, this is too much to give up for Alex Freeland. Because again, I think I can get Grove for much cheaper, or I could just wait the Dodgers out and have him be DFA'd and claim him. Although I do think the Mariners probably have some level of interest in Grove. He throws enough strikes. He's got pretty good stuff. It's just, he hasn't put it together for the Dodgers. So maybe you think you can help him. And he does have plenty of starting experience too. So maybe he's the number 6 starter. You kind of bump Hancock down a rung, but to me, this is too much to give up for Freeland. He's not a proven major leaguer. He doesn't have any specific carrying tool. And again, I lose $2.5 million in bonus pool money that I can get really creative with the number 3 pick on top of it.
Yeah, that, and I also feel like decent chance you're going to get a more interesting prospect with that pick in the draft.
Freeland.
Like Freeland's obviously closer, and you can find out a lot sooner than whatever prospect you're going to take at number 35. But I don't know.
So yeah, I think I'd pass on this. Get some credit for trying to be creative, but I think ultimately I look at this deal and I go, I just don't think you're getting enough upside, and you're giving up a tremendous amount of it. And because I can't count on Freeland or Grove to help me in 2025, I'd rather trade that pick elsewhere, if I'm going to trade it at all, of course.
Yeah, I'll go 45 on this. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.